Hey everybody, welcome back to G-Dub's Point of View. I am your host G-Dub. We are here for day 10 of the G1, which of course is the 5th day of B-Block action. Overall, this is a great card, I thought. Definitely one of the stronger nights. To start with, I legitimately did not catch any of the tag matches. None of them piqued my interest whatsoever. Usually I'll try to catch at least one or try to see some entrances or something, but I just was not interested in any of the tag matches. So I really don't have any notes for that. The only thing I know really is that there was like a stare down between Elgin and Okada at the end of their match, which of course will be great. I'm recording this Sunday night, so their match will happen overnight, Monday morning. So I'm very much looking forward to that match. I definitely remember their one from last year, and they absolutely crushed it. And Elgin almost got the big victory, so I'm very much looking forward to their match tomorrow. But yeah, we'll jump right into the B block action. Of course, the first match was Tama Tonga versus Zack Sabre Jr. I thought it was a good match. I wrote down that the dueling intros were really good because, of course, Taka Michinoku is one of the best hype men on the planet right now. And they kind of had started it with last night's action of Fale scaring the ring announcer and Tonga Loa doing his introduction to. Now they just had Tonga Loa just come out and do the intro for Tama, which I thought was really fun. And they were kind of getting into each other's faces about the dueling intros. The crowd was cheering big for the big intro, even though they probably understood maybe 10% of it. Probably even less. But they were cheering for it because they had a nice personalized intro. But yeah, that was kind of a nice fun spot. Of course, Tama did the Roman Reigns pose at the top of the ramp and did like a fist pump. And so he was still kind of leaning into that whole Twitter feud going on. But yeah, the match was entertaining. I really liked the antics of Taka Michinoku because they really were playing up like Kevin Kelly really played up, and you notice that ever since Taka became Zack's manager, he doesn't get involved physically in the matches. That's just not his thing. Even though they are Suzuki-gun, which are like notorious for being shit stirrers, that's just not Michinoku's thing. And I think that's really fun that these two massive heels, it really is just a coach. They're just assholes, but they're not going to get involved in the match. They just know they're better. But as soon as Tonga Loa started getting involved, doing the trip on Zack, and then Tama goes around the ropes, and then Michinoku trips him, and eventually, later on, like Michinoku's getting laid out, and jumps up, puts a sleeper hold on Tonga Loa at one point. I thought that was really fun. It allowed Taka to kind of get involved for the first time in a match, but it made sense because he was trying to fight the other guy's antics. So it actually made sense. The flow of the match was really nice. I thought it was just a constant, it started pretty slow, kind of fun, and then it kind of will constantly ramp up energy until the finish. Which, of course, was a DQ where people were getting knocked out, and then all of a sudden Fale comes in and hits a grenade on CSJ and gets a DQ. So Zack escapes with the win, and Michinoku gets laid out again, so they're both just having to kind of lick their wounds on the way back. But it was a typical DQ finish that they've been doing, so there was really nothing special about it. The crowd was very happy to see Zack Sabre Jr. win. They really wanted him to tap Tama out before Fale got involved. But they were really happy to actually see Zack win, so Zack's at 6 points now, which is good for him, especially being he's kind of the tournament specialist now that his first ever tournament or second tournament he ever entered, he won, and he put up a good showing in last year's G1, and he's having another great G1. Of course, Tom is stuck at 2 points. He's not going to get very many wins. That's just not how they're approaching this tournament for him. So, yeah, we'll see how many more points he gets. He might end up with 6. Might end up with just 4, though. I don't think he'll stake at 2. I mean, I think he'll get at least one more win. But he might only end up with 4 or 6. Second match was Juice against Toru Yano. This was a really fun match. The crowd was super hot at the start. There was huge chants for Yano, and then a huge Juice chant when he was doing his Juice punches. That's the hottest crowd I've heard for Juice in a while. Probably since San Francisco. Which was fun to see. And then Yano was getting big cheers, and of course he's trying to do like a mixture of being the master thief, cheater, and the clean wrestler. Of course, Yano had a great a great game plan of going after Juice's hand. Used a lot of nefarious tactics to put a lot of focus on Juice's hand. Yano does kind of slip back into his old ways at points. Of course, they had the nice like sword fight with the turnbuckle pads, which was fun. Which it allows, because Juice is kind of a silly guy anyway, so this kind of allows him. He's kind of similar to Kenny in that aspect of, when it's serious time, he puts on his serious pants. It's time to go to work. But then he can have a match with Yano where they just have sword fights with the turnbuckles, and like Kenny gets to have the tape fights with Yano. So I think they're kind of similar in that aspect, where they're both kind of goofy guys, and they really know when to turn up the seriousness and when they can kind of relax and have some more fun. I really like the airplane spin spot. It was actually the first time I've seen Juice break out the airplane spin. Of course, he spins around for like 15 seconds and then drops him, and then they're both kind of just stumbling around, and then Juice is throwing punches at like the air, and I think he almost hits Marty at one point, just walking by him, and then they both fall down. I thought that was real fun. And then they had the big counter at the end of the arm hooks, and they're constantly spinning, and then eventually Juice gets him fully locked in and hits Pulp Friction and gets a win. He gets his first 2 points on the board. It's a huge win for Juice, of course. He could win out. I think his opponents next are pretty good, but he's not facing the big boys anymore. I mean, he's already faced Tama, which of course is a kind of a middling guy, but he's already faced Ibushi, Naito, and Omega. I mean, he's faced really the big hitters of his block. He's still got like Goto, Ishii, Zack Sabre Jr., and who else does he have? Oh, Sonata. But he could very likely win all of those. So there's still the potential for him to actually win out and get 10 points. I don't think it will happen. I think he'll probably end up around 6 or 8. But he could win out, and you'd have your pick of title matches for him in the fall. But he would still have a great tournament, especially turning it around after the poor 0-4 start. So it'll be real interesting to see where he goes. Of course, Yano's at 2 points. He'll probably end up with 6. He'll get a couple more wins. Match 3, of course, was Tomohiro Ishii versus Kota Ibushi. 100% this is match of the tournament. At least to this point. The only matches that will be able to top this at this point. Of course, I say this now. The G1's so unpredictable, there could be another just unbelievable match here in like 3 days with Okada Suzuki, or even tomorrow night with Okada Elgin. But I think the only 2 matches that have a chance of beating this for match of the tournament are Okada Tanahashi and Ibushi Omega. These guys went out there and gave 110%, and they are, as you can see by the thumbnail, actually they were billed as the main event, and they honestly should have been. This match is just incredible. If you want to watch, this is the match to watch if you want to get into New Japan. Wow. They had such a great opening of trading looks and spots and momentum and duck-in reversals, and Ibushi does this standard miss the kick to land the moonsault, but it was so fast and just so crisp. Just such a great opening. The match is just brutally hard-hitting. Of course, Ibushi has to be Ibushi, and so he takes Ishii to the outside, hits a freaking Hurricane Rana on the floor, and then goes up to the balcony, and as he's getting the crowd hyped, just jumps off and does moonsault. That's such an Ibushi way to do it. It was a little unfortunate because the arena was so dark, they could only turn on the lights so much, and the camera crew couldn't really get a great shot of the moonsault. And then when they cut to it like mid moonsault, it was real dark, so you couldn't really see it. But it was just nuts. I mean, it's just Ibushi, And then he gets up, and then he walks Ishii back to the ring. Like, he just specifically walked out there to hit a Hurricane Rana on him, moonsault, or moonsault off the second story, and then, walk him back to the ring. It's just, their sequences together are so crisp. They're so clean. Oh my God. It was just the fucking time where Ishii hits Ibushi with a top rope. He hits him with like a superplex, like a second rope suplex. So I don't know if it's technically a superplex or not. And Ibushi just stands up, like nothing happened. And then he goes to suplex Ishii. Ishii counters with a suplex. Then he just immediately gets up, suplexes Ishii, who immediately gets up. and then they hit each other and they both just collapse for the next minute. Just the crowd was so into it. Like that crowd was hot, and they were only going to get hotter. I thought they were hot for the Juice Yano match, and oh my god, this is two fan favorites going at it and going at it. And the crowd was just eating it up. They had such a beautiful story throughout the match too of them both. They'd be kind of worn out, and then they both start disrespecting the other one, like giving them kicks and slapping them on their head, and they both like wake up essentially. Ishii's very it's very apparent when Ishii does it, because he'll be kind of dead, and then someone will start like patting his head or giving him little disrespectful kicks, and he'll start just getting up, and they cut to his face, and he's just stone face Pitbull, and just completely just like, I'm gonna murder this person. And then he comes out and like chops Ibushi right in the neck, and you just hear this thud, and then like Ibushi, Ishii's like screaming at him and kicking him in the corner, and then Ibushi just slowly has that same face and gets up and just closed fist punches Ishii right in the chest, like right in his heart, just and then Ishii's just he hits him like 3 times like that. It's just the constant story of the match was both of them were trying to get the upper hand mentally of disrespecting the other, and the other one would just get up and just pummel them for disrespecting them. And the finish was just absolutely perfect of Ibushi finally getting the roll through and hitting the Kamigoye, and this is 100% match of the tournament so far. There's only 2 matches that will be able to top it, and it should have main evented the evening. Even though the main event was fantastic, this should have main evented the evening like was advertised, and they definitely earned the match of the night for sure, and will probably hold up as one of the top 2 or 3 matches of the entire tournament, and potentially one of maybe top 10, top 15 matches of the whole year. It was that good. Semifinal match was Goto and Naito. These guys put on a fun match. I liked the opening because it was different. They had a lot of like counter dives. Naito was going for his signature spot, and then Goto came in and kicked him and threw him outside and was going to go for a dive, and then Naito came back in, and then they just kept countering each other's dives. It was a different opening than you really see. Especially for tonight, it was a really different opening, so I enjoyed that. They tried to change it up. Of course, at one point, Naito hits a neck breaker right on the apron for Goto, and Goto starts selling his neck, and instantly, for the rest of the match, that becomes the target, which, of course, is a setup for the Destino. And it was just constant target for him, which was good. I mean, it was a good story to tell throughout the match. It was just a really solid and fundamental match. If you just want to watch good wrestling, this is probably roughly a 4-star match. If you just want to watch a great match that's just really fundamentally sound, this is the match to watch. There's just constant good pacing, throughout the match, and they have it's pretty mellow throughout the entire match, and then they really kick it up at the end, and but it's just really solid fundamental wrestling. This whole tournament, the Goto mid kicks, which are kind of what Ibushi throws, it's Goto's version of that, are being sold phenomenally. That's really become like a brand new weapon for him, which I really enjoy. So like Naito would kind of, he'd kind of be okay with some offense. He'd recover pretty quickly. But if Goto hit him with a mid kick, he'd be selling it like crazy. And Ishii was the same way. That was a big like thorn in Ishii's side in their match, was Goto's mid kicks were just brutal. So I really like that they're showing Goto has this weapon that'll be able to get him some wins. It was just a solid match, good finish. They did the running like half Destino, and Goto kicked out, and then Naito hits the full wind up Destino for the win. Someone I had seen kind of complain about, Goto kicking out of the Destino, the first one. Like, why is Goto kicking out? And Kevin Kelly said on commentary, it's the first one that's been kicked out of the tournament. And then someone had a really good analogy on the Squared Circle subreddit, so shout outs to whoever made this comment. They essentially compared it to like a baseball pitcher during his windup. If you rush the windup and the motion, it's not as effective. Like, they're going to throw the ball slower, they're not going to be as accurate. Just they're going to be out on their front foot and not make a great pitch. Whereas if they take their time with the full windup, full delivery, they're going to be a lot more accurate and a lot more powerful in their throw. And I think that's a good analogy for the Naito finisher. Whereas if he does the full sprint, rushes, catches half of Goto, it's not as strong as the full arm wind up into the Destino. So I really appreciated that analogy because I thought it was just perfect. But yeah, this is a really solid match. It was just hard to follow that last match, and so I feel bad for them because they put on a great match. It's still roughly a 4-star match personally, and there was just the crowd was almost just dead. They really like Naito, of course, but the crowd was almost dead until Naito hit the Destino because they were just worn out after the last match. So they're put in a tough spot. I think they did well. And of course, the main event was Kenny Omega versus Sonata. Great match. They had a really fun mind game start, which I really enjoyed. Which came through, and it also kind of showed in like the, Sonata was kind of besting Kenny and then held the ropes open for him. And then, Kenny came in and Sonata let him get in clean, and then Kenny tried to attack him and he countered it. So he was trying to show that Sonata was ahead early. Of course, Kenny at one point hits some move on Sonata's leg, and Sonata starts selling it like he just torn apart. And of course, that's just a huge focus for Kenny. And he does like the big, fold the knee up, drop him on the apron, just a full constant target for him throughout the rest of the match, which is a great story to tell. Cuts out on Sonata's offense since he likes to do all the high flying stuff. They had just a great spot where Sonata did his flip over the top. Someone Irish whips him into the corner. He does the flip over the top, and then he goes for a springboard drop kick. And he usually does the double feet drop kick. So it looked great whenever he went for it. And Kenny jumped up as high as he possibly could and hit the best powerbomb counter I've seen him hit. Because he ever since Dominion of last year, that's been a move in his arsenal. When Okada would go, in their Dominion match of last year, Okada was going for the drop kick and Kenny flew into a powerbomb. Ever since then, that's been a move in his arsenal for drop kicks, and this was definitely the best one he's hit. It looked great. The crowd was really hot for both people. The crowd momentum was constantly switching back and forth between Kenny and Sonata, which is, I think, a real testament to Sonata this year. I think he's really kind of coming to his own. I think last year everybody kind of pegged him as like, okay, G127, this is Sonata's tournament. He's going to break out, be the new big star. And it really, he didn't. And so everybody thought it was disappointing, but I think his performance this year has just shown he just wasn't ready. He hadn't fully developed as a wrestler yet. Even though he's still really young, and at that point you think he would be, but I think, last year being his first tournament, I think. Either last year or the year before was his first tournament. That was a good experience for him to really be ready for this year because, he's had 5 matches. They've all been really good. He's had probably Tama's second best match of the tournament so far. He's had just a great 2 matches with Omega and Ibushi, and he's just really shown that he's one of those top tier talents for sure. Of course, they had a great finish with Sonata going for the flip over skull end and Kenny catching him and reversing it into a one-winged angel and getting the pin. The match was just really great. I'd roughly probably put this at 4.5. It was just it was definitely better than Goto Naito. It was definitely second best match of the night. And Sonata looked great, got big cheers, and then of course Kenny gets the big win. Of course, we go back a little bit. Ibushi's now at 6 points, which is good. I think he's in a good spot. He could potentially win out. He'll probably... he's got, 4 more matches left? 8 points? He'll probably lose at least 1 more. Yeah, I'd say he wins 3, because I personally have him beating Kenny on the last night. So I say he could probably lose 1 of his next couple matches and then win out and make it to the finals. Ishii's at 4, which is a little surprising. Actually, I thought he had more. So his only wins are I think against Yano and Goto. But I think he's got a little bit easier of a last 4 matches as far as name talent, kayfabe talent wise, that he has a better chance of beating. So he potentially could end up with another 10 points or so. Naito's 4-1. He's got 8 points. He's in a great spot. Of course, his only loss is to Kenny. Goto's at 4 points, which is again a spot that's Ishii. He'll probably get a couple more wins. Probably ended at around 8 or 10, and he's having a great tournament so far as well. And then Sonata's at 6. He's got a really great track to actually get a lot of points this year. He'll probably end up with at least 10, if not 12. And then Kenny's 5-0, which I was very surprised that he hadn't had a loss at this point. Of course, one of my predictions, I had him losing to Naito night 1. So to start 5-0, his next match, which I'm very curious, his next match is against Zack Sabre Jr. That could potentially be a loss for him, especially with the story they're telling of Kenny having the fractured heel, and ZSJ, of course, being the perfect submission guy and will target everything, and he's learned the heel hook from Minoru Suzuki. It's very possible they get Kenny to tap out and have a King of Pro Wrestling match or something, or potentially the Fighting Spirit Unleashed event or whatever in Long Beach at the end of September could be a Zack Sabre Jr. title match. I actually think that would be a better spot for it than King of Pro Wrestling, but because it's two Western guys going after it. But and it all depends. I mean, but Kenny could. Wow, I'm trying to think, because Kenny could lose that, but still end up winning the whole tournament, and be able to pick his opponent. But he really has to win it at the fall event if that's the case. But it's very possible he goes 9-0 and be the first ever person to go undefeated through the block, and then they could really have him win the whole tournament, go undefeated, win the whole tournament, and pick his opponent, which of course would be probably Ibushi, but there could be potential. I don't think they'll do that just because I don't know how that affects their fall card. But the only thing that might make that more plausible of Kenny winning is maybe taking a loss here in the fall, or taking a loss here in this tournament and then winning the whole thing, is the way their schedule's set up of this Fighting Spirit Unleashed event on September 30th, and then within a week or two is King of Pro Wrestling. You don't have two heavyweight title matches that close together, so it's potential that you'd have this Western main event. I mean, you either have Kenny and whoever main event King of Pro Wrestling, or they main event the Fighting Spirit Unleashed event. You bring Jericho back maybe for the other one, and he either relinquishes or not relinquish, but either loses the IC title, or you just have an IC title match. You could also do another US heavyweight title match, which will more than likely happen, of course, at the Long Beach event. But now we're starting to kind of see the finish line for this tournament. There's still another 8 days of block action before we even get to the final night. And I'm very fortunate. I actually probably will be able to see the final night now live, which will be just awesome. Probably the final 2 nights, actually. I'll probably be able to watch Omega Ibushi and the final night live when it airs, which will be awesome. That's always my favorite time to watch any kind of New Japan event. Watching it live is just great. But yeah, that'll do it for today's video. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it to this point, please share and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. We're pumping out these videos as fast as I can get them out, and I'm hoping to do some more variety, especially once this tournament ends, when I got a little more content to focus on. But thanks so much, and I will see you again on more than likely Tuesday for my Day 11 review.